While some of us labor in opposition, Joe Labor and his leftist political party are working to harm America and our citizens. No greater evidence of this exists than the calamity that has been the botched withdrawal out of Afghanistan. We now know that Joe Biden has created the largest American hostage situation in American history, as untold hundreds of Americans are now being held against their will by the terrorist Taliban in Afghanistan. We'll get more into that in a minute. Meanwhile, back here at home, the left-wing press and the Democrat Socialist Party is desperate to abandon our people and change the subject to an issue they believe benefits them: the slaughter of children in the womb. Socialist Democrats abandon Americans and American values. That's the truth we put out in tonight's preamble. The left-wing rag, The Atlantic, had a curious headline over the weekend: the strange, sudden silence of conservative abortion foes. Why has the right fallen so quiet about Texas's new abortion law? Folks, I think I'm safe in saying that David Graham, the author, doesn't have many legitimate conservatives in his little circle. His justification for having made such a sweeping statement seems to be his attention to one personality on one TV network. But the Chris Salcedo Show and many others on Newsmax have been very pleased and effusive in our praise of the Texas law, a law that seeks to protect the most vulnerable and helpless among us, young human beings in the womb. And in the coming days, we will continue to support and voice our support. But I think this audience needs to know why the American left is suddenly consumed with a Texas law that prevents killing a human being in the womb after a heartbeat is detected. Don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. Those words, credited to Barack Hussein Obama, are the reason why the left-wing press, the DNC, and the socialists in government are pivoting so hard to one state out of 50 that is protecting their babies from Socialist Democrats. Joe Biden has opened the border. In so doing, he's lost control of the pandemic. He's created a humanitarian crisis and a national security crisis at the border as well. Biden is so desperate to have his illegal immigration cake and eat it too, he even scheduled a booster shot rollout before he had the data confirming that a China virus booster shot was needed or safe for Americans to take. Joe Biden created the biggest, most humiliating foreign policy defeat in the modern era with his crazy pullout of Afghanistan, in which he left hundreds of Americans behind. Joe Biden's jobs report was a disaster. Inflation is skyrocketing. The cost of everything is going up as Biden devalues our dollar. Biden's most devout worshipers in the People's Republic of California, they are paying record high gas prices this Labor Day. So the socialists are desperate to pivot to something they think will rally their base and save their electoral fortunes in 2022. Hence, the focus on slaughtering children in the womb. There are several problems with this cynical political gambit. First among them, the general public has turned against abortion on demand. Most Americans think it's not Nazi-esque to make an innocent child pay with its life because its parents couldn't partake in cheap, common-sense precautions to avoid unwanted pregnancy. What's also true is that many legal experts now think that the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision was simply bad law. That is an opinion shared by the Chris Salcedo Show. It's one of the rare moments of agreement we have had with ultra-left-wing Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said before she died that Roe v. Wade, quote, invited no dialogue with legislators. Instead, it seemed entirely to remove the ball from the legislator's court, end quote. In other words, the Supreme Court stupidly removed the abortion issue out of the arena of debate before the debate was settled by a majority of our people through their representatives. In contrast, England and other countries have had this debate, and the majority of their people and culture have decided the issue, not the courts. I should also mention that once Roe v. Wade is overturned, it will not make abortion illegal. Far from it. The states of California, Oregon, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and others will expand abortion, some making it legal to kill a child all the way until the 9th month of pregnancy. Now, don't forget, Inhuman Socialist Democrats in Virginia proposed a bill that was narrowly defeated after the bill's sponsor admitted it would allow the slaughter of a baby even after a mother went into labor. Still, in other states like Texas, the unborn will be protected as persons using science as a guide. Advanced technology will give us the ability to detect heartbeats and determine whether a child can feel pain if an abortionist is allowed to rip its little body apart. States with a conscience will not allow that type of barbarism to occur. And the debate will continue until we as a people decide. Many hosts here on Newsmax are confronting this issue head on. We can't speak for others cited in the Atlantic article, but many of us will not shy away from calling out sadistic practices pushed by the godless left, nor will we shrink from defending the most innocent among us, the unborn. And we'll do so by making sure our audience is aware of all of Biden's screw-ups all along the way. Speaking of screw-ups, that leads me to woke companies like Uber, Lyft, Anti-American Airlines, GoDaddy, Tinder, Hewlett-Packard, among others. They are openly attacking Texas and recently passed laws that protect the unborn, expand our Second Amendment rights, and protect against Democrats' efforts to cheat at the ballot box. Let me state plainly that they have an absolute right to do so as private companies to throw their money behind anti-American, inhuman, and big government initiatives. But those rights, they cut both ways. We, the people who care about limited government power, the rights of the individual, and the sanctity of human life, will not voluntarily give our hard-earned money to these companies and others that are committed to wokeness over liberty and freedom. The American left isn't entitled to ignore the laws without consequences, nor are they entitled to work to harm Americans without paying a heavy cost, as Americans refuse to buy their products. And as America further divides among pro-American and woke at every level, we conservatives know that in the marketplace of ideas, defenders of freedom will win over leftist wokeism every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.